taking some time to take a look at my video. I just want to give you a little intro here. Played a 5-10 live stream session at Best Bet Jacksonville. It's the biggest game I've ever played in. It was a great experience. I want to thank the team over there for giving me a chance to play. There was a lot of really interesting and really tricky spots that were really good for analysis. And I had initially clipped a bunch of different hands. For the sake of time and given the best analysis, I decided to do a full analysis of two of the most interesting hands that I thought were really good for analysis. Why do I think you should watch this video? It focuses a lot on short stack strategy and technical analysis, bet sizing, and stack management. So if you're a player who's looking to move up in stakes, I think adopting some of these short stack strategies can help you move up in stakes and play on a short stack until you learn a little bit more and are able to play on a bigger stack. If you're a technical player that likes to focus on bet sizing and stuff like that, I think this video can give you some additional things to think about. And if you're a less technical player that allows more on reading people, I think this is important for you to watch so you can at least understand how some other players are playing against you. I really hope you enjoy this video. And I'd love it if you could leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And let's get into the hands. Hand number one.
Shout out to my guys currently in the box. Hold it down. Under the gun, flip, 2 nines. Gonna come in 10 Gs. Been here early on in this game. I don't know what they're trying to do. Weird. Jack's gonna open it up here. Queen 4 of clubs. One time. MJM with the suited ace 6. Gonna make the call. He just said all in. Oh, wow. The old limp rip. I got 5 there. The old limp rip 2 nines. Puts Jack in a weird spot. Is that a thing? It is today. It looks strong. It looks really, really strong. You know, you only have to, that trap only works once, you know? That's that.
Talk about this first hand here. So before I talk specifically about this first hand, I want to talk about my general approach for playing on a short stack from early position, particularly under the gun. So I've generally found that it's very difficult to play effectively using standard 3x and 4x raises from under the gun on a short stack. You're going to find yourself in a lot of positions where you're either playing from out of position against multiple other opponents, or where if you get re-raised, you're probably going to have to fold or go all in with a hand that doesn't quite have the equity to do so. So one of the things I like to do from under the gun on a short stack is look for a certain range of hands where it makes sense for me to limp in with the potential of re-raising all in over the top if a profitable situation arises. Hands I like to do this with are generally hands that are strong enough to have reasonable equity when called, but are not so strong where I'm going to feel like I left money on the table if everyone folds. I definitely feel like pocket nines fits into this category. Profitable situations generally occur when you have a loose player opening from middle position or a late position opener, preferably with at least one other caller in the middle to increase the amount of dead money in the pot so that your all-in will increase your stack by at least 20% when everyone folds. So let's go ahead and talk about this hand specifically. As was alluded to, I go ahead and limp in with pocket nines from under the gun with $484, just under 50 big blinds. The action folds over to Jack in late position. He raises to $50 or 5 big blinds. It folds over to the small blind MJM. Completes with a suited ace 6 suited. The big blind folds, and then I go ahead and move all in. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the math and statistics for this particular play here. So when I make this all in, I'm expecting to get called by a pretty tight range here. Pocket jacks through pocket aces and ace king, I'm expecting to call 100% of the time. I'm expecting to get called by pocket eights, pocket tens, and ace queen roughly 54% of the time, for a total of 54 hands calling me down. Based on having 1,326 hands in poker, this constitutes a total call down percentage of approximately 4%. And when I do get called, I'll have roughly 37.5% equity in the hand. Given that I'll generally either be flipping or behind when I get called, the best result is for everyone to fold. When everyone does fold, I'll be picking up $110 in dead money, not including my limp. When I do get called, based on my $484 stack size and my 37.5% equity in the hand, I'll be losing an average of $93 when called. So now the question is, how often does this play need to work where everyone folds for it to be profitable? And the answer is 46%. If everyone folds at least 46% of the time, this is a profitable play here. So how often do I actually expect this hand to work? So I generally expect this to work a high percentage of the time, and I'll kind of explain why. I'm expecting the middle to late position opener to be opening with a pretty wide range, a high percentage of the time, possibly up to 40% of their hands. The fact that Jack decided to open with Queen 4 suited supports my assertion that a lot of players are going to be opening with a pretty wide range in this situation. If he's opening with 40% of his hands and only calling off 4% to the all-in, he'll be folding 90% of the time to my jam. I also don't expect the field caller to be calling off very often. If they had a hand strong enough to call an all-in, they likely would have re-raised themselves rather than just flatting the late position opener. Based on my experience, I expect this play to fold out all of my opponents roughly 70 to 75% of the time. If you're making this play in the right games against the right opponents, I believe you can increase that percentage up to about 80%. Using the more conservative estimate of 70%, this play will result in an average profit of $49. And in my opinion, based on the challenges of playing on a short stack from out of position, I expect that this is the most profitable way to play pocket nines in this situation. Hand number 2.
Straddle on now. Looks like now we're gonna open things up. Here we go. All right, now we're playing 5-10 quarter, or at least 5-10 and quarter out of this hand. Started with a limp. I saw a limp raise earlier in early position. Raise it up. One bad re-raise. Didn't get under the two, so I guess unless that's waiting around for a hand, said he's gonna just try something himself. I like it. Oh, that something is raising it up with pocket deuces. Doesn't find the comparative. Not really a pair, but there's no sense. Well, Bill says whatever. I'll see a third card. It's just they're just chips, right? Whoa. What?
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this hand here. We have a straddled pot, or Wild Bill, who's been living up to his name by playing extremely loose and aggressive, has gone ahead and straddled to $25 from under the gun. Will goes ahead and calls from under the gun +1 with a mystery hand, and it folds over to me on the button with pocket deuces. So before I talk about this specific hand, I want to talk about my general strategy for playing straddle pots. So I think about poker from a purely geometric standpoint, where I make my decision on betting and raising as well as the size based purely on the size of the pot and the amount of dead money in the pot. On the contrast, a lot of players think about poker from a largely arithmetic standpoint, where they're making decisions based on how much to bet and how much to call based on the total amount of money involved in the bet and not necessarily the amount of money in the pot. So I generally like to exploit this by playing more hands in straddle pots. Let me expound on this a little bit. So if I were to make a standard raise to 4 big blinds or $40 on straddle pot, I don't think too many players would take this very seriously, because they don't see this as a very big bet relative to the size of the game. However, when I make a raise to $100, which is also 4 big blinds, given the $25 straddle, which is effectively a blind, I expect to get a lot more respect from my opponents and get a lot more folds and be put on a much stronger hand, despite the fact that I'm making the same raise size relative to the size of the pot. So again, I like to exploit this arithmetic thought process in my opponents by raising with a wider range of straddle pots. So I go ahead and make it $100, then it folds over to Wild Bill. I concealed his hand for the first part of this video to kind of make it more interesting for you guys to follow my analysis. Wild Bill goes ahead and calls. This actually gives me a fair amount of information based on the way he's been playing. Wild Bill's been re-raising a fair amount with his strong hands, so I expect if he had a larger pocket pair, probably anything bigger than about pocket sixes, I expect he'd be re-raising me. And if he had a strong ace, I also expect he'd be re-raising me the vast majority of the time. At the same time, even though he's pretty wild, I don't think he's going to be calling with total junk. And I think a lot of hands containing a lot of lower cards, such as deuces through sevens, are going to be reflected as folds in his spot. So I can definitely put him on a middling type of hand. A lot of hands like Jack 8, Queen 9, King 10, Ace 9. I think these are the types of hands he's going to hold a lot when he chooses to just call here. Will goes ahead and folds, gets out of the way, and we see a rainbow flop of 4, 5, 7. Wild Bill checks it over to me, and I go ahead and c-bet $100 into a $240 pot. Outside of actually hitting my set with a deuce on the flop, this is a pretty good flop for me because it's not going to connect with his range all that often. After some deliberation, Wild Bill goes ahead and shoves all in for my remaining $240 that's in my stack. The graphics in the video are a little bit off there. So obviously, this is not the result that I wanted. I was hoping he'd just fold out and I could take the pot down. However, the fact that he's decided to move all in does not necessarily mean that I'm beating the hand. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the types of hands that Wild Bill can have in this situation. So Wild Bill has been playing a lot of big pots for a lot of money, pretty loosely and pretty aggressively. I believe he's a rich guy who can just afford to gamble a little bit. He's got over $2,000 in the stack right now, and I'm sitting on just a couple hundred more bucks. I don't think he'd think twice about gambling or trying to make a bluff for a couple $100, given the way he's been playing and what I've seen from him. So I actually think he's very capable of just having 2 naked overcards in this situation. If he does have 2 overcards, I'm going to have roughly 72% equity in the hand. Given that I think he's capable of shoving with 2 overcards, I definitely think he's capable of shoving all in with any straight draw. There's a couple different straight draws he can have. He can have some gut shot straight draws with hands containing a 3 or an 8. He can have some open-ended straight draws with any hand containing a 6. Any straight draw or overcards, for that matter, could also have a backdoor flush draw if he has suited cards. If he does have some type of straight draw, my equity in the hand will be somewhere between 45 and 60%, depending on the exact composition of his straight draw. If he does have me beat, he could have a higher pair or some type of 2 pair, where I'm going to have roughly 10% equity. And if he's got a set or a straight, I'm going to be in pretty bad shape with approximately 0% equity in the hand. Kind of simplifying this a little bit, if he has 2 overcards, I'm going to have roughly 72% equity in the hand. And if he has some type of draw, I'm going to have roughly 54% equity. If he's got a made hand, I'll have about 8% equity in the hand. The fact that I expect Wild Bill to have 2 overcards and some type of draw in equal proportions, I'll have roughly 63% equity when I'm not up against a main hand. Given that I have $240 left in my stack, calling will result in an average return of $340 more than folding in this situation. If I am up against a main hand, calling will result in an average return of $176 less than folding. Based on this math here, if Wild Bill does not have a main hand 34% of the time or more, then calling is more profitable than folding. So the big question here is how often does Wild Bill actually have a main hand? Based on all my analysis, all my experience, and all the time I've spent trying to understand Wild Bill and his strategy and his play, I expect he's going to have a main hand roughly 50% of the time. If you disagree with my analysis, I completely respect your opinion. This analysis is far less precise than the analysis we did in the previous hand. However, based on my 50% assessment, calling will return an average profit of $88 more than folding. And in my personal opinion, we can say with a high degree of confidence that Wild Bill is going to be doing this without a made hand at least 34% of the time, based on all the analysis we've done. And I assess that calling is much better than folding, as crazy as it sounds in this situation. Let's go ahead and see what happens in the hand.
I'll see a third card. It's just, they're just chips, right? Whoa. What? Oh, the glass is coming off. It's like his signature move. Damn it. Look at the hemming and all. There it is. Did I get it wrong twice? I mean, why even wear glasses at this point? They're going to keep coming off. You might as well leave them on. Yeah. Get gone, man. I mean, he snatches them off so fast when he's faced with the decision. Hey, it's a whoa, we made the call. What is happening? Did I get that one? Oh my god. He says, whatever, let's go. Oh my god, he's going to go. Oh, he's going boards. He's going to go boards with two hands. Wow. Oh, he only had 600. Okay, it makes a little more sense now. Oh, Glenn says, whatever, let's do it. Deuces. I don't know about those. Tells me, get it in around twice, man. Thanks. Dave says, Glenn is my hero. What a both of these guys. What a bunch of sickos. That's something that was great. Let's go! Pocket deuces!
Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. You got some useful information out of it. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and I'd love it if you could leave a like or comment. So thank you so much.